Welcome to another session of the Fire Exceed Night School. I am the tutor. Today we're going to talk about investment versus flipping. There's a lot of different terms for these two things, but essentially what we're going to get into today is discussing how to take money or other valuable things that you have and either have them grow over time in value or return on investment so that you can get more of another tradable liquidity out of them. This is going to apply directly to stocks, futures, any sort of investment that you could do. If you want to do real estate, if you want to do Magic the Gathering cards, if you want to do anything like coin, Bitcoin, digital coin, any of that stuff, it goes even further. If you have a business, something like that you're putting, $200,000 into something like somebody else's business that they've run, and you're not going to wind up running it, the same kinds of principles are going to be discussed here in this video. Now, we are standing at the precipice of the 30th anniversary launch. I'm unsure if that came out today, but basically the market is tanking, and Wizards of the Coast is reporting incredible losses, incredible deficits. They're churning out more product and slapping their player base in the face, slapping the brick and mortar stores in the face. People just don't have the money. Gas prices $6 a gallon some places. And you don't know. The thing is, the Midwest of the United States, the areas where there are larger cities obviously always had higher gas prices, but now there are rural places that are also dealing with the same budgetary strain. And what is it? What is it from? I've been following the markets, reading Forbes, Money Magazine, anything I could get my hands on, Business Insider, Yahoo Investments, anything that could tell the truth, because money doesn't lie. And what I'm seeing is that rich people across the United States took a huge bet on Donald Trump. He failed at letting them literally do whatever it was that they wanted to do. And now that we have gotten a chance to see just how big of assholes they are running scared, just turning up the heat on the regular middle class and lower so that they can take as much money as they can, because they spent millions of dollars on him. He did not deliver on what it was that they wanted, and now we are here. And so for people who don't have a whole lot of money, the question of investment becomes almost a moot point. You can't really invest if you don't have any money to invest, but that's not true. And that's what we're going to wind up discussing today. Now, I invest, and I also wind up being able to flip some cards. And the 30th anniversary is going to wind up being an incredible investment because of cards like this. This is Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, a proxy. Now, you can tell it's a proxy because the circle on the back is purple and not blue. And that's going to be a little bit hard to see. But here in the light, you can see that there's somewhat of a difference. And I'll give you a comparison here. Now, you can see edge to edge, this one's purple, this one's blue. Now, we know that the 30th anniversary edition should have been named something else. For $1,000, you're going to wind up getting 4 packs that you can wind up taking 2 and 2 and doing that with a couple of land cards and essentially playing a very expensive alpha version of what the original sealed starter boosters or starter packs would have been like. And that could be a whole lot of fun. You're going to wind up getting proxies, and then the backs are going to wind up being like this. Now, the issue that I have with a lot of people out there going, oh yeah, the backs are going to be different, there's going to be something on it. The collector's edition cards that came out of beta in the first decade or so, those had different backs, those had different fronts, and yet they're worth hundreds of dollars. Why is that? It's because when you were playing at home, nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit if you were using a proxy. Who's going to spend $1,000 on 60 cards and not use sleeves? So we're talking about having a sleeve like this, and let's say, for example, you have something on the front of it. Everybody you're going to play with is going to know that's Emrakul. If the back matches up, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You don't cheat with your friends. You try not to, at least. And if you wind up doing Cheating, why? Why are you doing cheating? Just learn to enjoy losing. You know, wait until you can get some better cards, make some good deals, you know, beg and plead for your friends to make favorable trades in your direction so that you can wind up getting more powerful stuff if that's the case. But something like this has no value. This is I could sell this for a penny. But to me, this is worth at least 20 bucks because I would spend $20 to get Emrakul having gotten a chance to never fucking play with this because my group hates this, and when I play it, they hate me. So I don't play it. I just have one from the Double Masters 2022 set, foil extended art, the really, really nice looking one, very similar to this, and it just sits in a protective plastic case that I get to take out and look at once in a while because it's my favorite fucking card. I mean, technically it's not. Phyrexian Dreadnought is my favorite card, but I don't have one of those in foil. Now the question becomes, if I were to get this as a proxy and it's covered in the back and I can't wind up playing it like that because I have clear sleeves, well, that's not really much of a problem because, I'm sorry, don't Dragon Shield, don't Wizards of the Coast, don't 400 different manufacturers from just Japan alone make solid backed sleeves? So all of a sudden we don't have a problem with that. And so what it winds up becoming is when you work with high-end retail organizations, with anybody selling into retail, really, really expensive stuff, if you really want to capture what is known as the whale investors, the people who have a lot of money, have a lot of liquid capacity to put money into a thing, this is where you would see them really investing their money. The things like the 30th anniversary are where you would see them putting their money because this is going to wind up being a replacement of a card that you can get for 10 cents. You can get lightning bolts for nothing, for next to nothing. You can get a bunch of them for $1. Same thing with swamps. You can get a bunch of swamps for $1. Now, is this going to be worth more? Yes, it is, because it is a better looking swamp. It's shiny, it's flashy, it looks absolutely incredible in the light. It catches your eye. The little skull has little diamond, and the stained glass effect looks magnificent. Likewise, here, a lightning bolt that is full art, new art, has, for me, the excitement of being in Japanese, which I both think looks amazing, and I also am learning Japanese, so it winds up having a double effect for me. Now, these are interesting cards to select because this is banned in Commander, and I only play Commander. These are not banned in Commander, but these help bling out decks. The 30th Anniversary Edition is literally going to be something for high-end players, and they should have not named it 30th Anniversary. Dominaria United should have been named 30th Anniversary. That would have been the play, but they were too stupid, and I'm saying that arguably offensively because I don't have any mercy for them. They've been through this before. It is what happened, and people don't remember that. I'm almost 40. People do not remember that the reason they released the original collector's edition was because they were hurting so bad to put out new, exciting IPs that they literally went back to their very first set to do a quick cash grab for the entire set for 50 bucks. And even then, I was working in a bookstore at the time and nobody fucking wanted it, including me. Nobody would touch it. So it went to clearance. That's how you wound up getting a collector's booster. Was back in the day, you picked it up for 20 bucks because everybody wanted to get rid of them. Nobody wanted them because they weren't legal and the backs were different. And 20 years ago, sleeves were more expensive. They were more rare. They were less likely to get played. People don't even remember back in the day, there used to be tons and tons of kids who would play with rubber bands to hold their decks together because deck boxes were so rare. Now you can get deck boxes for nothing. The entire premise of getting these guys, your boxes with deck boxes inside of them, was in order to protect the cards because they had started gaining so much value. And because as a way of incentivizing players and rewarding them for purchasing fat packs and things like that, deck boxes were included. Now, investments are cards like these. If you wind up getting a foil pact of negation, it's $25 all day. The regular one is about $20. Now, the fact that those two are so close together has a lot to do with the fact that this is a highly traded card. It is an incredibly valuable card, but it only really sees play when you're doing turn 0, turn 1 wins. 0 cost, pay 5 or lose the game. That's a pretty hefty price if you swing and miss. Gemstone Caverns, same thing. It has problematic issues with it because if it doesn't have the luck counter on it, it taps for colorless. It sucks. Well, that has, and this set, Time Spiral Remastered, pushed towards being able to do draft and being able to do high-end meta at the time. This is what 30th anniversary should have been. It should have been a beta remastered. If they had done a beta remastered and they had said it's $1,000 a pack for beta remastered, people would have lined up to save up money and get it because they would have known they finally had a close enough shot to pull that fucking Black Lotus. And you would have been able to get dual lands, which they are putting in at twice the rarity or twice the population of rarity than they had normally been. And something like a Sliver Legion. Sliver Legion's a fantastic card. Wooburg for 7/7, brilliant. So easy to get Wooburg, especially with Timeless Lotus now. And then on top of that, this gives all your other slivers a very special ability that gives them +1/+1 for each other sliver on the on the board. That's great, but again, this is limited because you might lose the game. This is limited because it might turn out to be colorless. This is limited because it's tribal sliver. If you don't have any other slivers, it doesn't matter. So all of these cards are going to wind up staying in the value range that they're going to be, and you're going to see them slowly moving up until the point comes when either new slivers come out or something else winds up making this something that people need to go back and get again, until a new, more interesting dynamic works with this, until something else makes it so that you just don't have to pay the cost. You know, once newer cards come out, the old cards that are really powerful already will wind up becoming more powerful. That's why beta, alpha, revised retain their value, because they were OP once more sets came out. But the thing about it is that from this set, your foil Gemstone Caverns, because of the rarity of it and because of the legacy players and the vintage players, the foil is always going to wind up going for more. It just happens to be that a lot of people will wind up getting this because it's very alluring with the 0 cost, but you wind up seeing a lot of people go, you know what, I swung and I missed too many times. It's time for this to go. I'm going to go with Force of Will instead. I'm going to wind up going with something else instead. And this is not that. It's not that case, because even if you swing and miss with this, you still wind up with a land, and it doesn't really affect you either way. So that being said, this will always have a higher value for the foil than this will, apart from their non-foil versions, because with one of these, this winds up being more heavily traded back, whereas with this, people know there's no way that anything else is going to be able to replace this. So that being said, there's a lot of things now out that are really good. I was on TCG Player uploading several of the commons, uncommons, and rares that I don't need extras of, don't need to TCG Player. And my TCG Player account is called Helpa Nerd Out. It's 2 words, Helpa Nerd Out. And what I was seeing was cards like Karn, Living Legacy, which generates mana rocks and then allows you to go fishing for cards. And then if you wind up getting the final to go off, it's tap an untapped artifact you control. The emblem deals 1 damage to any target. It's the thing about it is that you wind up seeing a card like this go for next to nothing, even though it's a full art foil. And the reason for that is because people have not yet realized the synergy that this has with other things they may already own, or that they haven't gone searching for synergy with it yet because they don't actually realize just how sick this is. You look at the state of Carnes. Carnes always took a huge dump right when they came out, and then 2 or 3 sets on, they'd explode in value. You couldn't get them for anything. You have to trade whole boxes to get them because there was a greater chance that you would wind up not being able to even get one because they were always mythics. They were always harder to get. And they always had really, really good value later on against the Phyrexians. That's what he does. Runevelt Hordemaster, I was going to get rid of this. This is a promo pre-release card, and no one wants them. They're not even hitting $10, and it's one of the best goblins ever made. And the thing is that this is now worth even less. It went up for a bit and then it's coming back down. But the pre-release cards for Dominaria United are in the tank. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Wizards spent too much time slapping people in the face. Now, these cards aren't highly valued right now because people are not aware of how good they are. But at the same time, it's coming at a strange time in US economics. It's coming in a strange time of market volatility. This is a better example of what a rare stylized card can do when it's not working for the meta and people don't have favoritism for what it does. This is foil Acroma from the Time Spiral block, and you can see from the gloss just what an incredibly pretty card this is. This is just absolutely magnificent. I have waited a long time to get my hands on one of these, and it's $3. And had I known that, I probably just would have gone and bought it. The non-foil version for this mythic, one of the most devastating angels ever created, is $1.50, maybe. It's worth less than both of these. And it has been worth less than both of these for a long time. Now, a lot of that has to do with the fact that she's a high-cost card. She morphs, and she morphs for a high cost, and that's problematic. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's Angel Tribal. Now, Acroma arguably will wind up seeing a lot more play once you see the morph mechanic come back, once you see more love with flipped over cards, when you see more love with Angel Tribal, when you see more love with being able to get big, nasty creatures out on the board. But the thing is that nobody who played from Once Upon a Time back then wants her. She wasn't any good in Sealed. She wasn't any good in Draft, except she was. She would wreck your opponents. She's a fire-breathing 6/6 with flying. Like she's the same as a dragon. If you could get her onto the board and Draft or Sealed, like your opponents were going to have a hard time dealing with her, period. Now, in constructed play, in standard, she's never going to get played. There's almost no chance you're ever going to see her in somebody playing with a standard build of 60 cards and wanting to put this in. But on the other side of that, this is Goblin Tribal. This is Artifacts Tribal. If you wind up going with Artifact play, this is a fantastic card. But for $4, you can pick them up all day long. Now, what's going to wind up happening is what I was saying about loading cards onto TCG Player is that I am seeing rares being if you want to do a good investment right now, you can invest for pennies because there are rares on TCG Player for a penny, for a nickel, and for a dime that have last previous listings sold at $1 or more. People are liquidating their stock because Wizards has fucked up so bad. They have fucked up so bad with the 30th anniversary edition and pumping out too much stuff. And we saw this with a company known as WizKids. WizKids had a couple of different IPs. They had Mech Warrior, they had Mage Knight, they had HeroClix, and they've moved into new realms. They now have Dice Masters. There's been a couple of other different IPs that they've picked up, and they're real. They have a good history of making fun games. But when you consider that WizKids went out of business a couple of years back, and that was, arguably their fault, and arguably had to do with the market at the time, they are one of the top producers of pre-painted plastic miniature figures for tabletop games. Now, when you consider that WizKids went under, sold their business, came back, brought back product, the way they responded to the loyalty of their customer base, which is basically what happened around the time the collector's edition first came out, Wizards didn't do what WizKids did. WizKids eliminated power creep. They heard that the loyalty of their consumers, entirely based on what those people wanted to do, was that there was too much product, too powerful, and it rendered what they had already invested in inert. So something like Edgar Charmed Groom, I now have this in my Vampiric Bloodlines deck that I picked up for half what the market had because I found a good deal on it. And I wound up swapping him in, but I have this copy and I also have the Dracula copy. Now he's only worth $3-4. Other vampires you control get +1/+1. He's a 4/4 for 4. 4/4 is flat. Should he have been flying? Yes. But when Edgar Charmed Groom dies, return to the battlefield transformed. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white and black vampire creature token with lifelink and put a bloodline counter on him. So you get token generation as an artifact that allows you to escape the fact that he's going to go in your graveyard. Mimoplasm. This used to be an incredibly expensive card. And this is the foil extended art Double Masters 2022 edition. This is the kind of thing that they should have done for 30th anniversary edition. They should have made accessible cards of really, really nostalgic things to reward the players for their loyalty, and it should have been accessible in name, if nothing else. However, as the case happened to be, WizKids came back, and now they're doing just fine. They're coming out with sets that only have half, if not a third, of the figures they used to have. You can wind up spending enough money to buy a box of what would be the equivalent of a draft box or a set booster box of Magic for about $100 for figures, and you wind up getting almost the entire set out of it. You buy 2 of those, you'll be almost guaranteed to get the whole set. Now, there's chase cards in there that are harder to get, and that's how they wound up getting after those people with a lot of money. The chase cards were something that would keep people buying who had the liquidity to be able to do so. Now, in a couple of years, this is going to wind up being worth more money because there's no Mimoplasm like it. This is going to wind up being worth more money because when vampires get tribal again, people are going to go, oh, holy shit, this card's incredible. All right, well, let's keep going. Because when we talk about investing for pennies, what we're talking about is picking up stuff like these. This set was regarded highly as a complete failure. And the reason for that was because people wanted dragons and they did not get fucking dragons. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that this set and the Adventures in Forgotten Realms sets are OP as fuck. They are incredible. They are so fucking good. And people don't have any respect for them because they basically saw it as a cash grab. Okay, Hasbro, let's pump out as much product as you fucking can. All right, let's get some tie-in powers that allow us to do Dungeons & Dragons. Okay, cool. We got gate cards from olden days. We got the new gate cards. Oh, look, Baldur's Gate. Wow. Oh man, I totally know what Baldur's Gate is. I've heard about the game. Oh man. And this says tap 2, add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of other gates you control. Hi, have you ever heard of something called cobble coffers? This is literally cobble coffers. And not just that, it taps for 1, whereas cobble coffers does not. So the fact that you're trying to figure out how to generate gates instead of swamps, like with something that came out of, the Time Spiral Remastered set, your Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth that turns everything into swamps, there is going to eventually be something that allows you to turn all lands into gates. But as the case happens to be, this is a common card that does almost identically the same thing and is not legendary, by the way, so you can have more than one of them if you're playing in standard. But target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of gates you control, activate only as a sorcery. Okay, cool, great, fantastic. That having an alternate ability that doesn't generate any sort of colored mana yeah, of course, that's going to wind up being a little bit harder to play with. I'm not here to argue with people about what it is. What I'm getting at is, since people think this set is a flop and it is getting liquidated, you can get boxes of this set for about 140 or less for the collector booster pack boxes. The whole box of 12 packs for under $140 right now because people don't like it. And what that means is that in time, you're going to see people seeing more gates that are really, really, really good. And then this is going to wind up being more valuable. It's going to be, $3, $4, $5 as a common. And then you get the alternate art, extended art, full foil editions, and those are going to wind up being 30, $40 if those cards that you see later on are going to wind up being good. Now that is an investment. You take a penny card and you turn it into a $5 sum. Do the calculations on what percentage increase that is. Now Baldur's Gate is also not worth very much because it is a gate card and it doesn't tap for mana of any color until you have other gates on the battlefield. But that being said, this is a rare card. Full art foil version of this, when they start coming out with other gate cards, which they will. They will. They'll eventually get them out there. You'll be able to run a Wooburg Dragon deck, a Wooburg Joda deck, whatever it is that you want to do, and you're going to wind up being able to play this card up in it, and it's going to wind up helping you get that mana fixing that you need. And the fact that it can even do that means that right now, people are getting rid of this and liquidating it. It is time to invest. The difference is that flipping, and this is what I was going to get to, flipping this card is going to cost you money. Because unless you are an LGS, unless you are a brick and mortar, you are not going to be able to get this for less than it takes to buy packs. You are not going to be able to take this and turn it around and sell it on eBay. You're not going to be able to sell it to the Japanese, the Germans, the British. You're not going to be able to sell it to the Canadians. You're not going to be able to sell it on other markets for more than they can already get it for out of the packs that they buy. So flipping and turning it into a profit is not ideal. Flipping things, truthfully, is only good if you know that once it's opened, it's actually more rare than if you had it sealed. And that is what 30th anniversary is. 30th anniversary, now that we know that it is something that can be covered up with just a sleeve, you can wind up buying packs of that and turning it around and making a shit ton of money off of whales, because they're not going to wind up pulling the double land or the dual land that they want. They're not going to pull the things that they wanted because they're going to go in for maybe 3, 4, 5 packs or 3, 4, 5 boxes of the set, and they're not going to wind up getting it because there's a shit ton of fucking cards in that set. There's a shit ton of fucking cards in that set. So looking at that, if you were trying to make money off of 30th anniversary, you can. But if you're looking at making investments and you don't have more than $50 to invest, go after the cards that you really like. Go after stuff that you know is going to have value, because there's rares right now. There's foil rares, there's foil uncommons, foil commons that you can pick up, and they're pennies on the dollar because everybody's liquidating. Everybody's insulted. Great. Well, the age-old saying is, when there's blood in the streets, it's time to buy real estate. It's the best thing to do. When everybody's unhappy, when everybody's at each other's throats, that's the time to invest. And cards like these, this is a fantastic card. Kobolds of Care Keep. It taps for a colorless, and then you can pay a colorless and a red and tap it, and you get a 0/1 kobold creature. Now, Kobolds of Care Keep isn't worth a fucking dime. It might be worth $1.50 because it's a rare card in a rarer set, in a luxury set, just like Double Masters 2022. But the thing is, this is a dumb fucking card, and I fucking love it. I will keep at least one copy of this and play it in a red deck just because I want to play kobolds. Like, it's dumb. They're 0/1. Like, they're not good. And that's lovable. It's lovable. It's lovable how ridiculously bad this is. It's lovable how this winds up working into being able to get token generation for not a great cost for mana. But the fact of the matter remains that it is the love for the cards that will keep you using the value of what you invest until it is time for you to either let them go or pass them on or sell them. And for a card like this is a 5/4 for 6 that you can pay 3 to sacrifice a permanent and then go fishing for another permanent. And that's fantastic. This card is absolutely brutal if you can set it up. The cost is high, but it can defend itself. And it can also take some stuff out with it if it wants. You can wind up using this power to help fix your board, and it doesn't say non-token permanent. You can wind up going after stuff that you have generated from this to go fishing for something else with it. And this is a great combo. This is a great way to wind up seeing something that you can do that's fun with your friends that costs nothing, that costs next to nothing. And in time, this will wind up being worth a little bit more. This will wind up being a little bit more because the Time Spiral Remastered set was a luxury set. Double Masters 2022 is a luxury set. 30th Anniversary is a luxury set. They will only go up, even though the market is shitting its pants right now. So you can wind up picking up the highest end versions of these, the foil, extended art, best versions of cards, and you will wind up being able to play with them and have fun, but you will not be able to flip them. You will not be able to turn them around. And so what you're seeing is that all the brick and mortar stores, your Rudy's, your guys like those, who will literally shit talk Wizards all day long, because they don't want to do what you have the capacity to do, because they're running stores, they're running their stuff, they have a full-time job to make sure that they can actually make money off of this stuff. And because Wizards has pulled 30th Anniversary back to their own shores and they're only selling from there, the LGSs aren't going to make money off of it. That said, what that means is that they're going to be liquidating cards like these in order to make up that loss that they foresee. Your other players who are getting out because arguably the newest set of Pokemon just came out. It's a smaller set with only about 100 cards in it. It winds up having 4 different kinds of foils and or specialty cards in it. They have chase cards. They have really OP cards that have never been printed before coming out in the set. But there's not so many of them that it hurts trying to go after them. Even among people who absolutely love it and need it and want it and have to have it in their lives, they're not going to wind up spending so much money getting those specific chase cards that they're going to wind up losing their house because they didn't pay their mortgage on it. Now, that's about all the time I've got to talk about this. But basically what it boils down to is that if you're looking at cards that you know are going to wind up retaining value, that is what investment is. When you know that they're going to wind up being able to retain value, you're going to wind up being able to get that money back out of them anytime you decide to let them go. And there's a lot of lots up on eBay right now, full collections being let go for a song. I saw a guy who had something like 30 of the Commander decks with the sleeves, with the boxes, and he was selling the whole thing for $750. Checked again today, he took $70 off because he just wants to let it go. And this is where the heart is. You wind up seeing this not being worth anything, but I'm going to have a shit ton of fun with this in the meantime. Until I have to let this go, this is going to be worth more to me than it is. And if you consider that, that is what the game is about. That is what the community is about. That is what we have waited for so long, and Wizards can't give it to us. If you decide to have fun with whatever it is that you buy, and you only decide to spend enough money to get one box or one booster or whatever it is of the new set, let it go. Let it go. Because just because you can't get every single thing doesn't mean that you're missing out if you still have fun with what you've got. And if you're not having fun with what you've got, then you need to have a different talk with yourself. And that's something that I learned from watching my own father flipping cars, that he would work tirelessly to bring home money from, but because he never actually bought cars that he would enjoy driving while he was fixing them, he had no joy in his life. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to play with it. I'm going to take this and I'm going to play with it. I'm going to take this and I'm going to play with it. And then I'm going to sell it and I'm going to sell it and I'm going to keep it. And that's pretty much how it's going to wind up going. But until that day comes when I have to let these go, you can fucking bet that I'm going to enjoy myself and not feel like I missed out getting a Force of Will out of $1,000 for 4-pack set. I don't care. And you have to actively choose to not give a shit, or else you'll wind up becoming enthralled to the company who's making it. And the only way to set them correct is to literally close your pocketbook back up and say, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to go have fun with my friends. I'm going to work harder on establishing a community that respects me enough to be able to have fun with the cards that I've got. And then we'll go from there. Because what winds up happening is once you're finally sick of Pact of Negation, then you can trade it for that card you really like. And who knows, by the time you wind up getting enough value out of this for your own fun, the card that you thought was worth so much that they asked you to pay an arm and a leg to get, it may be worth nothing, and you might be able to get 5 of them. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great time gaming. This has been The Tutor with Phyrexian Night School. Please like, share, subscribe, and if you want, go check out my Patreon. I don't have any subscribers yet for it, but I'm going to keep making content free, no ads, because no ads as long as YouTube will let me do that. But yeah, I really want you guys to enjoy this, and I know there's not a lot of money to be made in this. Otherwise, I'd be in a different case. No pun intended. But I thoroughly want you guys to enjoy the game. I want you to not feel like you're losing enjoyment from the game because of what Wizards is doing. They may be stupid, but it doesn't mean that their stupidity has to stop you from having fun with your friends. You just have to stop listening to them for a while. And if you do, they'll realize that you're not buying any of their stuff. They'll realize that you're not listening to them anymore. And they'll wind up coming into a bottleneck of their own. They'll wind up putting themselves in a chokehold. And at that point, they'll have to figure out what to do in order to con you to come back. Well, the problem is, if you're having fun on your own, conning's a hard thing to be done on you. So they're going to have to come correct. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this talk. Again, flipping is going to be something that's very difficult to do right now because of the way the market is going. But again, if you guys want to do searches and find stuff for pennies, for nickels, for dimes, now's a good time to go hunt down those cards that you think might be, a good upgrade to your decks, a good little alternative, a good little bling out. But until next time, I will wind up going and beating up my friends with my upgraded Vampiric Bloodlust deck. So take it easy.